at 6 or 5 p.m. Today, we're going to be talking about very pertinent issues, and anyone who's been on the journey of either transplantation or even dialysis or any stage of CKD, we know, or any kind of kidney failure, we know that it is so important that we have a donor. So today we have Dr. Singhal, who will talk to us about cadaver kidney transplants, registrations, and its success. But before that, I would also like to introduce Dr. Singhal to us formally. Say a big hello to Mrs. Rita Dhar, who is also with us. Dr. Manju Agarwal, welcome. And thank you, Marianne, for being technically here for all of us. Dr. Manoj Kumar Singhal is a doctor, and he is a healthcare administrator, director, nephrology and kidney transplant medicine at the Max Super Speciality Hospital, Vaishali, Ghaziabad. He is a medical graduate from King George's Medical College, Lucknow, 1982 to 87, and has completed DM and DNB in nephrology in 1995 from the Sanjay Gandhi Postgraduate Institute of Medical Sciences, Lucknow. He has more than 25 years of distinguished experience and has worked nationally in Fortis Hospital, Noida, and internationally with the University Healthcare Network in Toronto, Canada. Dr. Singhal was also awarded the Fellowship of Indian Society of Nephrology, FISN, in December 2009 for his distinguished contribution in the field of nephrology and kidney transplantation. Dr. Singhal has an extensive academic experience and has been a program director for DNB since 2011. He has published more than 60 papers in international and national journals and authored more than 10 chapters in various textbooks. He has been faculty for several CMEs and postgraduate courses for the National Board of Examinations, IGNOU, and different professional associations. And we are so privileged and honored to have you here with us, sir, today to talk to us about a very pertinent and yet a very, I would say, sensitive topic. Because truly, I mean, it's so heartbreaking when somebody does pass on, and then to know that that person can give life to another person who is suffering is, I suppose, the greatest gift of all. So, sir, take us through this very sensitive and meaningful topic and let us know what your views are.
Thank you, Anjali, for this flattening introduction. So without wasting much time, I will go on with my presentation and then we'll take question answers in the end. So I hope my screen is visible to all of you. So what I'm going to talk today is about cadaveric kidney transplantation, how it has grown over the years in India, how one can get registered for the kidney disease donor transplantation, and what are the outcomes of such transplantation in India. If we look at the problem, the prevalence of end-stage kidney disease patients who require kidney transplantation or dialysis is estimated to be between 150 to 232. So if we pick up one figure, say 200, and looking at the population of 1.3 billion in India, we have more than 2 lakh people who develop chronic kidney disease and require kidney transplantation. But unfortunately, only 8,000 to maximum 10,000 patients, they get kidney transplantation all over India, which include 250 kidney transplant centers. Of this, most of the transplant, almost 90% transplants are done from living kidney donors. Only 10% kidneys come from the disease donation. This data look more vague, not so accurate, because there is no national transplant registry. So this is the data which is usually compiled by other organizations like NOTO and pharmaceutical industry. This is the data from NOTO, which shows the trends of transplantation in 2018. Overall, there were almost 8,000 kidney transplants which were done in India. And in Delhi alone, there were 1,500 kidney transplantation in 2018. So the living transplantation has evolved over last 45 years, and we are now the second largest transplant program after the USA. However, the awareness about cadaveric transplantation has been very slow to develop. although we had the legal framework in place, but the number of disease donation till 2012 were very few. In 2012, there were only 196 organ donation happened. But since 2012, there has been a progressive rise in the number of organ donation, which has increased to more than 3 to 4-fold till now. Okay. However, we still lag behind in this transplantation if we compare ourselves to other Western countries like the USA, Spain, and England, where the organ donation rate is much more. It runs in two figures. That's around 15 to 30% to 45%. Whereas in India, it is less than 1% persons per million population donate their organs. So there is a huge need for increased awareness and increasing the organ donation rate so that many of the patients who need these organs can get benefit. If we look at the statistics of organ donation in different states, usually states in the South India have done much better. Tamil Nadu, Pondicherry, Kerala, Telangana, and Andhra Pradesh, they have donation rate more than 1%. In North, Chandigarh has done very well as a union territory. The donation rate in Chandigarh is 37 per persons per million population, which is quite high as compared to the average figure in India, which is 0.5 per million population in 2015. So the credit goes to Postgraduate Institute in Chandigarh, which has a dedicated organ donation program, and they counsel these patients and retrieve many organs for patients who really require these organs. The growth of transplant in different states has been there. I'll just give few examples. For example, Tamil Nadu. In 2008, the government of Tamil Nadu for the first time has made it mandatory to certify brain death in critically ill patients in ICU. And they established this cadaveric transplant program there. And till 2018, Tamil Nadu was #1 in the organ donation rate. So the organ donation rate was 1.8 persons per million population in 2018, which was way above the national average at that point of time. However, after 2018, there has been a decline in the rate of organ donation in Tamil Nadu because of some controversy. But so far, the maximum donation has happened in Tamil Nadu. This was the effect which we call Hitendran effect. So in 2008, a 15-year-old gentleman met with an accident, and the family has donated all the organs of their son. And this was named after the name of this person, Hitendran. And there has been a program which has led to these donations. So this is similar to the effect which we saw, Nicholas effect. This happened in Italy in 1994. The 7-year-old boy died, and the parents have donated all the organs to all the people who were seen in this picture. And after that, over next 10 years, the organ donation rate in Italy has tripled, has increased 3 times. So that's the Nicholas effect in Italy. And then we have Hitendran effect in Tamil Nadu. In other states, Andhra Pradesh, the Transplantation of Human Organ Act was enacted in 1995, just after the National Act was enacted, and the disease donor program there is managed under the banner of Jeevan Daan since January 2013. Same way, Zonal Coordination Committee in Karnataka oversees the transplantation process in Karnataka. Most of the donation here occurs in private hospitals. Again, in Mumbai and Nagpur, zonal transplant coordination centers manage the transplant activity. And in 2018, Maharashtra overtook Tamil Nadu. So they had a maximum number of organ donations with 447 donations in 2019. Indore city in Madhya Pradesh, again, it's known for organ donation program, and they had maximum number of green corridors created till 2018. And they even have an air corridor created to ferry the organ at a very faster pace. So these are the effort which happened in different states and which has led to the growth of organ donation in India. So the legal framework, as I said, in India in 1994, the Transplantation of Human Organ Act was enacted so that the human organs can be organized and promoted for therapeutic purposes and to prevent the commercial dealings which were happening in this field earlier. Despite this act, when we faced a multi-billion rupees kidney scandal in 2009, the amendments were proposed in 2009 and it was enacted in 2011. And in pursuance to that amendment, the transplantation rules were also modified and the new set of rule was notified in 2014. So this Transplantation of Human Organ Act is now adopted by all the states except Andhra Pradesh and Jammu and Kashmir. And these two states have their own similar act which is implemented. So all over India, their transplantation is regulated by this enactment. To organize the activity of transplantation according to this act, the Director General of Health Services, Government of India, is implementing this program, National Organ Transplant Program, to carry out different activities and practically manage organ transplantation in India. So in the 12th five-year plan, there is a budget of almost 150 crore to improve the access of life-transforming transplantation for needy citizens in a country. So a national transplant program organized through different organizations, a National Organ and Tissue Transplant Organization, which we usually call NOTO, is set up in Safdarjung Hospital in Delhi. At the national level, it is performing different activities to put the systems in place, to put the SOPs for different programs, so that the transplantation activity can be regulated and organized all over the India. At the level of Delhi, the NOTO is doing a lot of work. They are maintaining the list of patients who are on the waiting list according to the different criteria like hospital-wise, organ-wise, blood group, and other things. They have a list of retrieval centers and hospitals which are doing transplantation. They are also doing the allocation of organ to different hospitals and different patients. So they are organizing basically the transplant activity which happens in Delhi and NCR. They also coordinate with other regional and state tissue transplant organizations. So there are 5 regional organizations and there is a separate state organization which coordinate with NOTO to organize these transplantation all over the India. In addition to these government organizations, there are other organizations. As I said, in different states, there are different organizations like Jeevan Daan, Zonal Coordination Committee, Nrit Sanjeevani, Nav Jeevan, and TransTan. These are the government organizations organizing transplant programs in different states. And there are non-government organizations which are involved in transplantations like Apex Kidney Foundation, Narmada Kidney Foundation in Mumbai, Gift Your Organ, Shatayu, and Mohan Foundation, which we all know are doing a good work in this field of kidney transplantation. So this has been the growth of cadaveric transplantation in India so far, although there have been a lot of challenges which we faced in development of cadaveric transplant. And the biggest challenge is the controversy. So state health is a state matter. So each state has different approach to cadaver organ donation, and the number of patients and the organization of this program is also different, as we have discussed in different states. So there has been, so far there has been a little emphasis in development of national framework, although NOTO now is trying to organize it at the national level, but still we have a long way to go on that note. There is no structured network of transplant centers, organ donation centers, and transplant coordinators. Again, for last 4 or 5 years, NOTO is trying to do that, but let's see how much we can do. less awareness about organ donation in public hospital as compared to private hospital. As we have seen, more than 90% organ donation happen in private hospitals, whereas there is much more potential in public hospitals, because most of the accident victims, they are taken to public hospital. So there is, if there is good infrastructure and good program in place, I think we can capitalize this this potential in public hospitals if we put more emphasis on that. There remains limited understanding and acceptance of brainstem death, both in medical fraternity as well as in general public. Even in doctors, there is less awareness about the criteria for brain death. People are hesitant to talk to patient and their relatives about brain death and organ donation. So we have to increase the awareness at both the levels, in the medical fraternity and in the general public, to increase the number of organ donations. So the take-home messages so far is the growth of cadaveric transplantation in particular state is because of initiative particular to that region. Okay. Plus, it is helped by other NGOs like Mohan Foundation and Zonal Coordination Committee. So if we adopt these successful practices in other states as well, I think there may be a very rapid growth or momentum for this organ donation in different states. Greater involvement of public sector hospital, as I discussed, because there is a maximum potential in public sector hospital. So if we can capitalize on that potential, there will be again increased growth. Reduction in the cost and use of innovative funding. So right now, the maintenance of a potential donor is the responsibility of a retrieval hospital. So, and the transportation of the organs to different places again. So if we have an organized system to share this cost or to reimburse this type of cost, I think that will give a boost to organ donation in India. Uniform organ allocation infrastructure. Again, there is lack of transparency and people are somewhat skeptical about who will get the kidney, how these kidneys will be allocated, and what are the outcomes of kidney transplantation in different centers. So if we have more transparency and more of this data is available to general public, I think there will be more trust in the system and the number of donation will get better. So this was the growth of cadaveric transplantation in India. Now I will switch to how one can get registered for cadaveric donor kidney transplantation, how one can get on the list. So Noto has devised this system which was implemented since 2016. And now it is mandatory for everyone to get registered on the Noto website. So everyone has to be registered with Noto to be eligible to get the kidney. Okay. The Kidney Advisory Committee will approve this registration. And if there is an urgency criteria attached to that individual, that has to be approved by this advisory committee. So once it is approved, then one is on the list of disease donor kidney transplantation. The criteria is that patient should be less than or equal to 65 years of age. So anybody who is more than 65 years at the moment is not listed for disease donor. Patient has to have end-stage kidney disease and on maintenance dialysis for more than 3 months. So if you are on regular dialysis for more than 3 months, then only the waiting list is start. So one cannot preemptively get registered on the disease donor list, and patient should not have any contraindications for kidney transplantation. So there should be no untreatable cardiovascular disease. Patient may have coronary artery disease, but if they have had the angioplasty or bypass, they are eligible for listing. But if the disease is such that it cannot be treated, then they cannot get listed on the disease donor transplant list. Same way, cerebrovascular accident with irreversible damage, inoperable malignancy, untreatable psychiatric disorders, these are contraindications to get the kidney transplantation, so they are not eligible for listing. Patient should be registered only in one hospital which is registered under the Organ Transplant Act with state authority. So if you have been registered at one hospital, it's not possible for one person to get registered at 10 hospitals, because it's a centralized registration system on the website. Once registered, you cannot get registered again. However, one can change the hospital. If you move from one place to another place, you may change your hospital, but then the new waiting list will be applicable only after 1 month. Okay, so your seniority will be considered from the day you started dialysis, but that will be applicable after 1 month of switching from one hospital to another hospital. Okay. Even if you're waiting for living donor transplant, one can get registered for the disease donor transplantation, but we all know that the waiting list is quite long. So at times it may take 3 years or 4 years to get the kidney, right? But you are eligible for disease donor kidney transplant list. This status of every individual has to be updated on a regular basis. So their treating hospital or the hospital where one is registered will update the status in form of active, unfit, suspended, lost to follow-up, or if the patient has already got the transplant done or the patient has had a death, then this status has to be updated on the NOTO website by the hospital who has registered the patient. There is a scoring system for making priority, and it considers these 7 criteria. The time on dialysis, the longer one is on dialysis, the more point he has. Previous immunological graft failure within 3 months of transplantation. Age of recipient. The children will get priority if there are children on the list. Patients on temporary vascular access or patients who have a failed vascular access. So if somebody has no vascular access, it becomes a criteria for urgent transplantation or priority on transplantation. Same way, if somebody is sensitized, the panel reactive antibody is very high, then they get the priority on the list. If the person has been a donor earlier and now they have developed renal disease, they again get the priority. And same with the near relative of the previous donor, if they develop disease, they again get the priority. So this is the scoring system, and based on this system, every individual get the particular score and get priority accordingly in the kidney transplantation. These are the allocation principles which are used when to allocate the organs. So just to reduce the cold ischemia time, allocation is usually done on the sitting waiting list. So if there is an available donor in the close by, in the same city or in the same state, then these recipients are given priority. If there is a pediatric donor, the kidney is usually offered to a pediatric patient. If there is no pediatric patient, then only it is offered to the adult. Blood group O kidney is preferably given to patients whose blood group is O. So if there is no eligible patient with O blood group, then only it is given to other blood groups. Same way, if the patient donor's blood group is A, it will be preferably given to A. And if there is nobody available with A, then only it is given to AB blood group, which is a universal recipient. So these are the normal principles which are followed when these kidneys are allocated. Then there is an algorithm how they go about it. So step 1 is to check the blood group, and accordingly we look for the recipient who is eligible. Then they look at the urgent list. So if there is somebody who is on the urgent list, then this patient is offered the kidney. And the criteria for urgent listing is patients who no longer has dialysis access. So if there is an access failure, this patient has a priority. And number 2, if there is a donor who is highly sensitized, the patient who is highly sensitized, if the PRA is more than 90% and they have a negative cross match, they get the priority. So if somebody is there who is eligible in the urgent listing, they get the priority. If there is nobody in the urgent listing, then the patients who require multiple organs, if the patient is for liver, say liver and kidney transplantation or pancreas and kidney transplantation, they get priority. And then at the 4th step, if there is no such person, then the kidney is allocated to people who are registered for kidney alone. In this, then they look at the retrieval center. So if the kidney is retrieved from the transplant hospital, which is doing transplant as well, then one kidney is shared at that center who retrieved the kidney, and one kidney is allocated to other hospitals. But if the kidneys are retrieved from only retrieval centers, they don't do the transplant, then both the kidneys are allocated to other centers which are doing kidney transplantation. And it is assumed that the hospital or the center which get the kidney will follow the same scoring system to allocate kidneys in their hospital. The other criteria is to look at whether the retrieval hospital is a government hospital or the private hospital. So if the retrieval is done from the government hospital, priority is given to the patients who are registered in government hospital. Same way, if the retrieval is done from private hospital, the priority is given to patients who are registered in private hospital. So that's how the uniform organ allocation system is followed by NOTO when they allocate these organs. If we compare this allocation system on the international practices, so how it is done at the international level, usually there are two ethical principles which guide this allocation system. One is equality or equity, and the other one is utility, right? So equity is that patient should have an equal right or equal chance to get the kidneys. So if the patient has been waiting for a long time, they should get priority. If the patient is sensitized, they should get priority. If they are from ethnic minorities, these patients should not be at a disadvantage and should get priority. So same way, we have to be fair in allocating these kidneys. At the same time, we also have to look for the maximum outcome of the transplantation. So if there is a good kidney coming from a younger donor, it should go to a younger patient so that the kidney can be utilized for a longer number of years. Same way, if the HLA matching is good, there is no mismatch, the chances of this kidney lasting for longer period of time is very high. So if there is no mismatch, the kidney should be used in the patient where there is no mismatch. So one has to strike a balance between these equity and utility so that we optimize the scarce resource. At the same time, everyone should have an equal and fair chance of getting the kidney. So these are the factors which are considered when kidney allocations are done internationally. Longevity matching, which is usually done in most of the regions like UK, US, Euro transplantation, Australia and Canada. Same way, HLA matching is given preference. Other blood groups, AB, DR matching and zero mismatch. Waiting time on dialysis. Highly sensitized patients with high PRA are given preference. Recipient is a prior living kidney donor, that is also given preference in most. So most of the systems usually match and they have the similar type of priorities given in different regions. This is the system which is recently followed in US since 2014, where they have these 14 factors, 10 factors in the donor, which they calculate kidney donor profile index. And based on the age, height, weight, ethnicity, hypertension, diabetes, cause of death, serum creatinine, hepatitis C, and donation after circulatory death. So based on this, the score is given to the donor, that particular kidney, like how good is this kidney, whether it is a standard criteria or say compromise criteria or extended criteria donor. Same way, they also scale or score the recipient according to the age of the recipient, dialysis time the patient has been on dialysis, prior organ transplantation, and presence of diabetes. So the kidneys which are not so good, say if the KDPI index is high, this type of kidney is given to people who do not have that type of long life, or say they're not expected. So they can be still utilized. So there is least wastage of these organs. And with this change of allocation system, they have shown that there are improvement in the utilization of organs in the US. That's how the kidney allocation system evolved in UK in different eras. For example, in 90s, they were beneficial matching, where one kidney was used in the local center where the kidney was retrieved and the other kidney was shared in that area. Then subsequently, it changed to favorable matching, where both the kidneys, if there is no mismatch, both the kidneys will be shared to individual where there is zero mismatch. Then there is equitable matching where both the kidneys are based on different criteria of matching and mismatch. And then there is a longevity matching where they also try to decrease the age difference between the donor and recipient. So that's how the system has evolved in UK. So our system in India is still, I think there is a lot of scope for improvement, but to begin with, there is a scoring system in place, and based on that scoring system, there is an allocation algorithm which is followed by NOTO. Coming on to the last part of my talk, which is the outcomes. So these are the outcomes which are shown globally. If we compare the diseased donor transplant to the living donor kidney transplantation, the outcome in diseased donor kidney transplantation is not as good as living donor transplantation. Say the upper row represents the 5-year allograft survival in diseased donor kidney transplantation, which is between 70 to 80% in various countries. Whereas the living donation 5-year allograft survival is between 80 to 90%. So there is a difference of 10% between living and the live donor kidney transplantation. Looking at the patient survival at 5 years, again the patient survival with living donation is slightly better than the diseased donation. And this difference is much more apparent in patients who are expected to live long. For example, in pediatric patients and patients who have fewer comorbidities, they are likely to live long, and that difference becomes significant in this population. If we compare the living donor versus diseased donor, recipient with living kidney donation, the outcome, say 5-year patient survival is 90%. Diseased donor normal criteria is 84%. Diseased donor with compromised kidney or expanded criteria, where the KDPI index is more than 85%, still 70%. These outcomes are still much better than dialysis. So any transplantation is better than waiting on dialysis for kidney transplantation. In fact, that has also been seen in US. This is a paper published in 2017, where they have compared preemptive kidney transplantation in patients more than 60 years of age. So they had 3 options. One was a preemptive, before going on dialysis, they can get the transplant with a compromised kidney, KDPI more than 85%, not so good kidney, but still it is better than going on dialysis. Patients who have been on dialysis, and even then if they get transplant with such kidney, the outcome is better than just staying on dialysis and waiting for kidney from a good donor. So there is a survival advantage in getting this kidney, especially in the older individual who are 60 years, or in fact, they have also shown 50 years. So if you're more than 50 years, you get this kidney, it's better to get the kidney transplantation than to stay on dialysis. The data from India is not so robust. There are single center experience which have been published. This is the experience from Madras, Madras Medical College and Rajiv Gandhi Government General Hospital, Chennai, where 1-year patient survival and graft survival was 80% and 82%, and 5-year patient survival 76% and graft survival 80%. When they looked at the factors predicting these survivals, age of the patient, cold ischemia time, rejection episode, and immediate graft function. If the graft started functioning immediately after engraftment, the outcome was going to be very bad. This solid line in both the graph, patient survival and graft survival, is patients who developed immediate graft function, whereas the dotted line shows the patient who developed delayed graft function. The kidney started to function late. So the outcome was much worse in situation where there was a delayed graft function. They also compared the outcome in different series from India. So from 2002, Dr. Mani, 2008, Prabhakar, 2013, Dr. Swami from RR Hospital, Dr. Kutte from Ahmedabad, and this study was from Madras, and they have shown the outcome was almost similar in all these centers. 1-year survival was between 75 to 85%, and the 5-year survival was around 70 to 75%. And this is another study which looked at different Asian studies and reported the similar type of survival. So in the end, the transplantation program in India has come a long way. We are number 2 in living donor kidney transplantation. The cadaveric transplantation is rapidly picking up, but to control this epidemic of kidney disease, there has to be a two-pronged approach. On one hand, we have to prevent the kidney failure. We have to identify kidney disease at an early stage so that we start preventing measure at that point of time and prevent the development of kidney failure and people requiring dialysis or kidney transplantation. At the same time, we have to increase the awareness about disease donation and increase the disease donation rate so that more and more patients who are on this type of life-sustaining therapy can get organ or transplantation and get benefit of that donation. So this is a Noto website where there are frequently asked questions and answer to this. So people can refer to this site and see if they need any other answers, which I have not answered in this. I'll stop here and I'll thank you for your patient listening, and then we can take these questions which you have put forward.
Thank you so much, Doctor. We first start with people who are following us live right now on Facebook, and that is from Suresh Palakirti. He says, is it possible to register in more than one state or in 2 different states? Because even I've heard that we can register in 3 different states, I think, if it's not false.
I think earlier, before 2016, it was possible to register in different states. But now, since Noto has implemented this allocation system, any recipient has to be registered online on Noto website. So once you are registered in one state from one hospital, if you want to change to another hospital, that provision is there, but one cannot get registered in 2 or 3 states separately.
So that has changed since 2016.
Yes, since 2016, the system has changed.
All right. We have a question from Mr. Ravi Hazuria, who says, so if 65 is the limit for registration, what is the advice for 70-year and older patients for transplant? Is there no hope?
See, this is a scale, resource which is very not abundant, right? So as an organization, there is a limit. So anybody who is less than 65 is eligible for transplant. But anybody who is more than 65, and if they are in a good medical condition, they can go for transplantation, but if they have a living donor in the family. And I think we still do transplant. I have done transplant in a 74-year-old individual. But that was a living donor transplant where his brother has donated kidney. Both of them were in a good health. We have done the transplant. But usually patients more than 65, most of the time their health is not as good and they could not survive the stress of transplantation. That is the reason it is not recommended as a policy. Individual cases may be different, but I think then they have to go for living donor kidney transplantation than the cadaveric donor.
All right, so now I go to the bank of questions that we have. And of course, you've already answered this. How does one register for transplant and who is eligible for a transplant?
So I think we have also already answered that. So if anybody is interested in listing, they have to be registered on Noto website from a hospital. So they will have to undergo a minimum set of investigation to exclude the contraindications for transplant. For example, to look for heart disease, cerebrovascular accident, malignancy, and psychiatric disorder. So if there is no such problem, we look for the sensitivity. If the patient has had any sensitizing event in the past, say previous pregnancies, previous transplantation, or multiple blood transfusions in the past. So these events can induce antibodies in the individual. So we do a PRA in this individual, and accordingly we list them, we register them on the Noto website.
All right. We want to know, is there a charge applicable for registration? And of course, we've just said that we already know that now ever since 2016, you have to go through Noto and only register in one city, state. So is there any charge applicable nowadays for the registration?
No, actually, there is no charges for registration by Noto. You might have to undertake these investigations before you get registered, but there is no registration charges.
Okay. If I've already been registered in a hospital and a name in National Registry before doing dialysis, that is registered before dialysis rule implemented, do we all have to wait till after 3 months dialysis to get deceased donor kidney?
Yes. So that is the eligibility criteria. One has to be on dialysis for at least 3 months before your waiting time starts.
All right.
So there is no preemptive registration for transplantation.
Is cadaver transplant a good option for second transplant as HLA testing is not possible?
Cadaver transplant is an option if you do not have a donor in the family. In patients who are going for second transplantation, again, the immunological risk is much higher.
In a cadaver transplant?
Transplantation, there is a high chance that you develop antibodies, anti-HLA antibodies, which we measure by doing PRA. So if the PRA or panel reactive antibody level is much higher, then the chances of having negative cross-match with the potential donor is low, be it a living or a cadaveric transplant. In that case, if you have a donor in the family where HLA is same, for example, if you have a sibling who has a 100% HLA match, then you cannot make antibodies. So your antibodies are not there and you can get a transplant with a good outcome.
Okay.
From donors where you do not have a matching HLA, HLA constitution is absolutely different. The chances are that you have antibodies against that donor and your cross match will be positive. So it will not be possible. And that is the reason these people are given priority. So if by chance they have a negative cross match, they will be given priority for allocation, because the chances of getting next kidney will be very long, very less.
What are the acceptable conditions in the cadaver donor to be approved for using their organs? Do we accept a person who succumbed to disease like cancer or HIV?
HIV, no. Active HIV or active infection, if somebody has, say, sepsis, or for example, in today's time, if the donor is a COVID positive donor,
yes,
right? So we do not accept this patient as a donor if they have a transmissible disease.
Okay.
If they have HIV, if they have COVID, if they have any other infection which can be transmitted, or malignancy which can be transmitted, except for a localized malignancy. Say CNS malignancy, the nervous system malignancy are usually not transmissible, and there is a limited type of skin malignancy like limited melanoma.
Yeah.
So these two malignancies are not transmissible. So these people can be accepted, but otherwise active infection and active malignancy are contraindications for kidney donation.
How many cadaver transplant recipients have lived, say, 10 to 20 years?
Yes, around 50 to 60%. So I've given you the figure. In India, there is no such data, but internationally, yes. The 5-year survival is in the tune of 70 to 75%. The 10-year survival is around 60%. I often do not remember 20-year survival, but the graft half-life, which we call, say 50% kidneys last for more than 12 years. That is that CTS data.
All right. Now, doctor, we have been asked, what are the main causes for rejection? Is it due to inherent kidney issues from the deceased donor or same as the live donor? And what are the inherent conditions of the kidney that normally affect and a patient must ascertain before a transplant?
I got the first part.
I'll break it into two then.
Yeah.
So what are the main causes of rejection? Is it due to inherent kidney issues from the deceased donor, or is it as same as a live donor?
Yeah. See, the rejection is because of immunological response in the recipient.
That's right.
So whenever we get the tissue which is not our own, it's a foreign tissue, body reacts to that tissue, and that reaction is called rejection,
Yes.
right? So the chances of rejection are there in the living donor, but in the diseased donor, if there is a delayed graft function. Say when we put in the kidney, if the kidney does not start functioning immediately, it may take few days to start functioning. During that time, the immunogenicity or say exposure of these foreign antigen is slightly high. So the chances of rejection is higher in diseased donor transplantation because of increased exposure of these foreign antigens. But the rejection response is a recipient response, right?
And yeah. And now the second part of the same question is, what are the inherent conditions of the kidneys that normally affect a patient, and a patient must ascertain before the transplant? They must become certain about it and know about it.
So that's what is scoring, what is used in US as KDPI, right? Kidney donor profile. So what is the age of the donor? What is the height, weight of the donor? What was the status of serum creatinine at the time of donation? What was the cause of death? Whether the donor had diabetes. So all these factors will tell us how good is the kidney, right? If the kidney is very bad, it's not transplantable. Most of the time, the doctors do not advise transplantation. If the KDPI is very high, then we say, okay, this kidney is not good to be transplanted, and that kidney is wasted. But even those kidneys, like if the KDPI is more than 85, between 85 to 100, it's not good for a very young or patient who has less comorbidities. But in patients who have a limited lifespan, for example, patient more than 60 years, I have shown the data that if these patients get this kidney, they usually last for 5 years or 10 years, which is the usual lifespan for these patients who are more than 60 years. So they can live with that kidney without dialysis. But if we try to give this kidney to a 30-year-old individual, then it's not a good idea because it will again fail in 10 years and they will be back on dialysis.
All right. Our next question is, does the organ face lose its value due to transportation delays in rendering the organ unit and unfit? And do these organs get rejected?
The outcome is associated with cold ischemia time.
Yes.
The longer the time gap between retrieval and the transplantation, that's what we call cold ischemia. So maximum people have used it till 48 hours or maybe 72 hours. But longer this gap is, the high chances of delayed graft function. So this kidney will not start functioning immediately. It will take some time to start function. And there is a small chance of not functioning at all, primary graft failure. Although the chance is very low, it's around 1%, right? But it may not start functioning. So that is the reason we try to do it as soon as possible. So if kidneys are usually allocated within the city, so that the transportation can be done within few hours, within 2 to 3 hours or maximum say 5 hours, and the kidneys start working immediately. And that's the reason we create these green corridors so that there is no time loss in transplantation.
So, sir, we also wanted to know a few things. Like you just said, after between 24 hours to 48 hours to 72 hours before the kidney reaches the recipient, if it's not in the same city, it obviously means that the kidney has been put onto a pump, right? And it is brought to the patient. Does the patient have the right to know how the kidney has been preserved and what was the condition of the deceased donor before he got this kidney?
Yes, actually, all this information is shared by the center, right, before they accept the kidney. And usually it's a responsibility of the center to share such information with the recipient as well. Okay. We do not disclose the identity of the donor, but these details, the recipient has a right to know the details. How good is the donor? What was the cause of death? What was the age of the donor? So that they have an idea what type of kidney they're getting. Yeah, so they have a right to refuse or accept.
But is that a norm in India? Are the recipients, are they even aware as to what kind of kidneys they're getting, how long it's been on a pump, what are been the causes of death, etc.? Do we normally, do our
Yes,
doctors actually
yes, we
tell us that?
usually inform them.
Okay, so that's good to know. Now, one more question we have got is for cadaver transplant, a recipient pays a registration fee. Now, does this need to be renewed from time to time or every 5 years?
As I said, there is no registration fee. Noto does not charge anything for registration, but their status has to be updated. So the center may have policy to update this status every 3 months or 6 months, but
Yeah.
from time to time, whether they are still active on the list or they are suspended or they are taken off the list because of any reason, so that status has to be updated. But there is no registration fees for listing.
Once again, the question has come, sir, what do you say? Do you believe, now this is a difficult one to answer, but which one would you propagate, live donor or deceased donor?
Say, as I said, in India, looking at the social and economic scenario, it's better to get the kidney transplantation as soon as possible. Once you reach end-stage kidney disease, getting a kidney transplant is much better than staying on dialysis, right? Especially if you are young, you have a productive life, whether you are a student or you're working or you're earning for your family, the sooner you get back to your work, it's better. So that way, living kidney donation, if it is possible, is the best type of treatment. But if there is a problem that there is no eligible donor in the family or for whatever reason you cannot get a living kidney, then one can get registered for the deceased donor because there is a long waiting time. Yeah. I have patients who have been registered since 2012 and they have still not got the kidney, 8 years.
My God.
Right. So there is a very long waiting time for dialysis, and dialysis is expensive. In a private hospital, somebody who has to pay from his own pocket, the cost of dialysis is minimum 3 lakhs per year. Whereas the transplantation is much less expensive. The cost of immunosuppression maximum is around 1.5 lakhs, 1.25 per year. So it's much more cost effective.
Yes, it is cost effective, but there are people who say that they are unable to, get like somebody who doesn't get a cadaver donor or a live donor. They've just got no other option but to be on dialysis. And they've learned how to accept their lives. And now some of them actually say we're better off with dialysis and not getting onto a transplant because they've already had a rejection or they've had 2 rejections and they're worried about going in ahead for one more.
Yeah, I think again, we always weigh the benefit and risk. So even if the one kidney has failed, say I have many patients who have got the second transplantation and they're doing very well.
Yes.
So it depends if you have a matching donor in the family. Say these are my patient, for example, he got the kidney transplantation in 2007, had repeated rejection at that point of time. The wife has donated the kidney. He survived for almost 10 years. 2019, that kidney failed and he started dialysis in December. Then this time the brother has come up as a kidney donor and fortunately they had 100% tissue matching.
Wow.
So we did the transplant again in February. So far he is doing very well, right? There are other patients as well where their aunt or brother or sister or somebody in the family has donated where they have a good tissue matching between the two. So these kidneys do well. So there's no point just leaving, okay, once the kidney has failed, now I'll not go. No, one can still go, but it's better to look at the matching kidney at that point of time so that you have a good long-term outcome.
So if we do have things like Noto in place, and we do know that it's a centralized system all over India, and of course we are, it's since it is centralized, everybody on that waiting list will be told and not told or will be aware. In spite of having this, why is it that we have to wait so long?
Yeah, say, as I said, the things are evolving. Say, for example, Noto has implemented this allocation system in 2016.
That's
right. There is a long list of patients who are registered. The criteria, although there is a criteria, but still the kidney is not allocated according to the patient. Kidney is allocated to the hospital.
Okay.
So any retrieval, for example, done in Fortis Hospital, Noida, the kidney, one kidney will be used in Fortis Hospital, Noida. Other kidney will go to a nearby hospital, say JP Hospital or Vaishali Hospital or some hospital. Then this hospital will decide among their list who is on that list and who is eligible, who is the most eligible candidate for this kidney. So still there is a long way to go in allocation. Whereas in US and other countries, it's the individual who is allocated. Say the sharing organization will have a HLA detail of an individual, all the other clinical details, and the kidney will be allocated to individual A, not to hospital A. So there is still a long way to go before we reach that type of system. Once we have that type of evolved system, probably the waiting time will come down. But at the moment, it is long.
Thank you so much, Dr. Singhal. And we know that with people like you, we are definitely going to be evolving and everybody is in safe hands. Thank you so much for all that you have shared with us. And I just want to let all of you know the second session is going to be starting right now with the amazing Ms. Rita Dhar, who's going to talk to us about organ donation laws and rules. And Mary Ann Manasa will be taking over that session. Please follow us on our kidney website, kidneywarriors.org. Find out all our details there and watch all our videos there as well. Dr. Singhal, thank you so much. It has been a pleasure and it's been a great eye-opener for all of us to know so many wonderful things, including me, who thought that you could register in three states at one time. Rita ma'am, welcome you now to your session. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
And happy Panchami to everybody who's watching, and may Ma put her blessings on all of us during these trying times. Namaskar.
Thank you very much, Anjali. Thank you very much, Dr. Manoj. Dr. Manoj, it's your complete free will if you'd like to stay on for the next session. If you have further schedules, you can leave. It's completely your call, Doc. It will be a pleasure if you could stay, but I understand if you...
No, I will stay. Okay.
Okay. Thank you, Anjali. So for those of you watching us on Facebook, if you want to grab a glass of water, please grab a glass of water, come back and sit, because I am sitting here with one of my favorite women that I've known in the recent past, very active in our very own community, the Kidney Warriors. And she is so knowledgeable on the topic that we're going to be discussing right now, and it's a pleasure to introduce her. Ms. Rita Dhar, who's been with the National Organ Transplant Program since its inception. She's been with NOTA, which was established in 2014, and the Organ Transplant Program, which was established in 2009. She's been associated with both as she took her PhD papers in organ donation and transplantation. Just for those of you who are new to the community, and some abbreviations might sound very tricky, NOTA stands for National Organ Tissue Transplant Program. And today we have lots of questions to ask Rita, because we have lots of our loved ones waiting to get a kidney, and Rita is here just for that. Rita, hi Rita, can you hear me?
Hello, can you hear me?
Very well, Rita, thank you.
Yes, thank you.
First and foremost, thank you so much for joining us here today. And
I'm really happy to join you all, and I was really listening to what doctor said. So many important things. I'm really thankful. Okay, thanks for inviting me to this session.
Rita, so I'm just going to request you first to introduce NOTA as an organization to the community of newcomers, for those of them who come into the community newly and has no idea the role NOTA plays in organ donation. Can you take us in a few lines, please?
Yes, why not? See, when this National Organ Transplant Program started in 2009 only, till that time there was no program, no central government program. Like we had passed on laws in 1994, and states had done their own work in their own ways without any centralized guidance. Nothing of that kind was there. Only law was there, and they were interpreting laws in their own way and doing transplants and private hospitals are there more in number doing these transplants. So they had developed and evolved their own system of organ allocation from deceased donors doing transplants. And we did not know how many transplants are occurring every year. Whenever we say that so many people need, even right now, we are not sure how many people are waiting for these transplants because we do not have those kind of registries updated till date. And when NATO, National Organ Transplant Program started in 2009, and it was because of 2011 amendments in the rule in the transplant laws, that it was mandated that there should be one centralized organization who could take over the situation and see what the country is doing and provide them guidelines. And the National Organ Transplant Program takes care of funds and allocates funds to all the states, all the UTs, and National Organ Transplant, NATO is one more, it is an organization. NOTP is a program. Program has fund allocation and it distributes fund to all the people and oversees what is happening and tells them what they have to go up, how they have to establish themselves and all these things. NATO is National Organ and Tissue Transplant Organization, and it started in 2014. Till that time, there was nobody to take a stock of the situation, what is happening in the country.
Transplant again in February.
Good. Dr. Manoj, it's your complete free will if you'd like to stay on for the next session, if you have further schedule. Sorry, Rita, I think Anjali's this came.
Okay. So it took over in 2014, and I was associated with National Organ Tissue and Transplant Organization because that time the director who was there, they did not know how to go about this awareness campaigns and all these things. And I had taken up a study in JNU, Jawaharlal Nehru University. And basically, I am from Central Health Education Bureau. It's a centralized organization that does health awareness activities in all national health programs, and National Organ Transplant Program is also one such program. So National Organ Transplant Program, I provided guidance to them how to go about it. Even the pledge form, through official route, I asked them, you please, it needs some modifications because you are not talking about brain stem death in this pledge form. You're just telling people after death you donate organs. It is not after. Organs are not donated after organs. So I took this form because it was placed on their website. I pre-tested this form in various schools, college of medical college and college of nursing, and gave them feedback, and it was changed. And at the same time, that so many things happened, and we created awareness. We went to so many places and we created awareness on organ donation. See, it is not about organ donation. It is also about talking about brain stem death. In India, we follow the brain stem death criteria, like UK. USA follows brain death criteria. So these two criteria are different. In other words, I can say that if brain death, a person who is declared dead in India may not be declared dead in USA. He may be still alive. Okay, so that kind of differences are there. There's even at the global level, there's lack of consensus with this. And I did a lot of work on this and created awareness because it's not about organs, donate organs, also accept brain death as a form of death, because through this death you can still live in so many people, so many individuals, and alleviate their sufferings. Like we are always talking about virtues and sin, and you are, even if after death, you can, still, do some good activities through these organ donations and transplantation. So that's all we have.
Thank you, Rita, for introducing us to NOTA and the brilliant work they're trying to do to create a system into place. So I caught one point that you mentioned, and I remember having this conversation with you before also. The criteria of being able to donate your organs once you're dead is you should be a brain dead person. So which means what happens if somebody has donated their organs and is not brain dead, which means they die through maybe an accident. So
see, you are talking about two things. One is you're talking about intentions to donate, like you are filling pledge forms. Are you talking about that? Like you want to donate, it is you are pledging, and then the intentions don't get converted into actions.
Yeah, exactly.
So usually it doesn't. It doesn't happen. Very rarely it may get converted because the brain death has to, go through certain criteria. He has to be, how many people die on ventilators. It's a ventilator related death. A person has to be on a ventilator, and then ventilator, after putting a person on ventilator, the person comes back. He's unconscious for some time, and he comes back to life. So he's a person who's on a ventilator, in ICUs. He's not any other. It is not any other dead person in mortuary, in any other place. It's a person who is on the ventilator, who dies on ventilator. Who dies means who's declared dead on ventilator. His heart is beating at the time and death is declared.
Okay.
It is not, the heart doesn't stop. It is beating. We are always also telling that this heartbeat retrievals, heartbeat transplants, because heart is pumping blood even at that time. Only brain is dead. We know that the person will not come out of this coma. It is an irreversible coma. The person will not come out of this coma, and the family is approached that you donate organs. Now the problem here is that when families approach, when person is still, his heart is beating, they can see him living on the ventilator, pumping and coming out, the oxygen is coming out, breathing. He's not breathing on his own. He's breathing because ventilator is there. If ventilator will be stopped, so he may not continue to breathe. So this is it is ventilator related death, and at the same time the person should be in such a hospital who have brain death certification committee. So all ICU hospitals do not have brain death certification committees. It is only organ transplant hospitals who have brain death certification committees, and some non-organ transplant but retrieval centers. They are retrieval centers, but they are very few in number. Okay. Because once a donor is, families approach to donate organs, they are not charged anything. The bills, they are not asked, because now he has to go to the operation theater, and it involves so much of money also. The solution here, these organs have to put into the solution. Solution costs sometimes 50,000. So who will pay for this? The moment this brain dead donor is declared and family is willing to donate, the billing is stopped. Now the hospital has to take over the billing. Now, if a hospital is non-transplant hospitals, why should they incur so much of money for maintaining this donor, and then not knowing what will they get out of this? Because sir already has told that we don't have a very good system in place. Recently, I was talking to National Organ Transplant Program nodal officer. He said, I asked him, see, we have provision of providing 1 lakh rupees to the retrieval hospital if they declare one brain dead. Okay. So, but he said that till date, nobody has availed that facility. So why should a non-organ retrieval, non-transplant hospital invest in such a donor? So that means as on date, 2017, I came to know there are about 301 transplant centers all over India. Mostly are doing kidney transplants. It is almost everywhere globally. Most of the transplants happen as kidney transplants happen in comparison to other transplants. So they are doing these kidney transplants. They need these. There are 301 hospitals, and sir has already told you there were 905 brain dead donors. That means that in 2017, that means maximum 1,800 will get. That means if suppose thinking that each and every hospital is doing these transplants, that means one hospital declared only 3 brain dead donors. 905 divided by 301, that means 3 donors per hospital. That means there is some problem with brain death declaration or acceptance of this death. As doctors always also told you, that there is the medical fraternity, they do not understand this form of death. For them, brain death is death after once heart stops beating, vein is also stops beating. I have seen that some doctors say, his heart has stopped and his brain has also stopped now, so he's brain dead. So there is some myths within the medical fraternity, as well as the professionals, as well as other professionals, and people also do not accept this death, because suddenly we are telling them he's brain dead. We have told them it's after death. Now we are telling them brain death. So they don't accept this kind of death. we have to talk about brain death also, not only about organ transplantation and organ donations. So that is.
Thank you. That's the precise reason I asked that question, to create this awareness that you should be brain dead if you want to still donate your organs. Well, based on the point you made, what if a person has donated their organs and on the time of death, the family refuses to accept the whole donation? Legally speaking, we can still harvest the organs, or the organs cannot be taken. What is the law like?
The law says that if suppose the person that said no to organ donation, the family cannot overrule the donor.
Okay.
The family cannot say yes to organ donation. If a person has, during his life, he has said, I will not donate. Nowadays, there is, recently I went to this, I had to get my license, driving license. There was one column, would you like to donate? It was not written organs, it was written organ, tissue. I was thinking, what are they saying? Organs, it is organs and tissues. I had to put one yes. If suppose I put no, my family cannot say yes to it. But if I had said yes, my family still could say no.
Okay.
Okay. So it is not your wish. In case you have said yes, it doesn't count. In fact, it has no legal standing. Even if you have pledged to donate organs, it has no legal standing. Legal standing means it is not that if hospital comes to know that you had pledged to donate organs, will retrieve your organs. No. Family will be counseled to donate organs. If they are willing, then only they do. Now you will tell me why then this is done. Once family knows that he had pledged to donate organs, they feel that it is their moral responsibility to, fulfill the wish of the donor at the time of death. So they go ahead with that. Sometimes they do not. So that is.
Thank you, Rita, for so kindly answering that question. I'm going to come back a little more into carnivore organ donation. I know Doctor covered some very important points, but I'm going to ask you what happens behind the scene that we don't know. But before that, a few questions from our warriors, okay? I'm a kidney donor, okay, and a cancer survivor. Am I eligible to donate my organs, other organs still?
See, whether you're, one thing is there, once you pledge, nobody asks you, what kind of disease you are suffering from. There's no criteria as such. Only you should be 18 plus. It is not only organs. We're talking about organs. You can donate tissues also. Like you can donate, there are tissues like you can donate skin, you can donate bones. 6 bones are taken. Your back of the skin is taken. You can donate heart valves. You can donate organs if you are brain dead. But if you are dead, you can donate tissues. Okay, when you are brain dead, you can donate organs, internal organs like kidneys, liver, heart. But if you are dead, you can donate tissues. That means once heart stops beating, even this death can take place in home, hospital, anywhere. So you can donate these tissues. You have once you make pledge, they don't ask you what do you suffer from this, because we may be making a pledge at the age of 19 years. God knows at 70 what will happen to me. God knows at 40 what will happen to me. So there is no criteria. You can still fill up the form. And as sir has already told you, if there is no active malignancy, there are some kinds of certain kinds of malignancies which debar you from donating organs. There are certain kind of malignancies. Now, a malignant person has donated kidney to the person, to her son. Dr. Vasundhara, Madam Vasundhara has donated kidney after this she got treated. So there is a possibility. There is a possibility of you just have to pledge to donate organs, tissues. After death, you can donate, and after brain death, you can donate organs. We have tissue banks also.
Thank you. I really caught your point that tissue donation is possible. You don't have to be brain dead. So that's a difference that
yes.
Thank you. Here comes a kidney person who's been transplanted. He says, I'm a kidney recipient. I've been transplanted. Can I still sign up to donate my other organs?
There is nothing like that. You can sign up. It depends at the time of death, what will happen, what your family will think. Nobody tells you what situation you are facing. Are you hypertensive? Are you diabetes? Nobody asks you. Just fill up. It is just an intention. Intentions may not always get into, converted into actions by your family. Intentions, it is individual intentions. The family actions are there.
But Rita, just Just to ask you, if the person has done a transplant, obviously he's got the good intention to sign up for organ donation, and he's quite healthy, obviously might be having secondary hypertension or something. Will his intention be changed into an action? Is it possible? Will there be any problems because he's a transplanted patient? Will there be any barriers to donate other organs?
See, let people decide at the time of death. First, he has to be brain dead for organ donation.
That's there.
So thinking so much about it, let doctors decide at that time what is transplantable and what is not, whether he can donate or whether he cannot donate, because maybe he's suffering from some disease, some infectious kind of some hepatitis, something. Maybe he's not able to donate. Maybe he is able. Let doctors decide at that time when the person is dead.
Okay. Somebody's asked a question that you've already mentioned the answer for, but I'm still going to read the question. You don't have to answer. Can my family decide to donate my organs if I've not registered? And I think the answer is yes.
Yes, you can. You can. Your family can donate. I have, 14. I interviewed 14 donor families. Only one person had pledged to donate organs. 13, it was family decision to donate organs. So you need not to pledge not to fill the pledge form. You just can, but you have, if you tell your family that it is my wish to donate organs, they go by that. Okay. Better to talk to your family, even if you are not filling up pledge forms. As I have told you, it has no legal standing. It has no legal standing. It only guides your family to donate organs. And if you tell your family, they can decide.
The next question is going to be a very interesting question. I was shocked when you gave me this answer a few months back. How many people have signed for organ donation? Okay, the question doesn't stop there. Based on the number of signed, what is the ratio or percentage that actually becomes organ donor? So we're talking about intention into action. Can you give me a number?
See, right now we have, I was going through NATO website today, it is not more than 3 lakh. 3 lakh people donating organs, they pledged to donate organs, and now we do not know, because this form has columns for tissue donation, this form has a column for organ donation. We do not know who has pledged what. 3,000 forms are filled up in NATO. We do not know how many, and we do not have that system to know that. We do not. If I tell you, so many people will. I will not be able to tell you that. There's no data to show that how many will get, converted into actions. These intentions, they are there. So it is very difficult to say that. It's very difficult. But I don't think it will be many. It won't be many. It won't unless each and every person pledges to donate organs.
Can you give us a rough number? 10%, 20%, 50%?
No, I don't think. I think it will be only 1%, maximum 1 or 2%. Because reaching that stage is also very difficult. I have seen that even the people who are declared, they go head injury cases, they are the accidental victims. They say it is only 1 to 3% who go into brain death, who can donate organs. 1 to 3% of accidental victims. So it is not, number is not much. So I will tell you, throughout world, there are only 30 to 40,000 brain dead plus cardiac dead organ donors, circulated organ donors, 30,000 to 40,000. That means 80,000 organs were getting, 80,000 kidneys were getting from these donors. So that means the number is not much.
So then this will only be sorted out if all of us, every citizen of India decides to become an organ donor. Then the possibilities of at least a few extra percentage, additional percentage of brain dead people.
It's not only about people, our system should be in place. Brain death certification team should be well trained. They should be highly motivated to do it, because the certification team is different from transplant team. If they declare dead, a person dead, what do they get in they think that what are we going? Even the transplant surgeon gets all the kudos and all the appreciation from the people. Hello.
Can you hear me, Rita?
You have the brain death certification teams also have to be prepared. Each and every hospital should be.
So is NOTA actually, is the organization actually doing some work to work on the certification for brain dead to create any awareness? Is that happening?
They are doing something like they are doing. There are so many issues to be taken care of. I have told there was lack of, that private hospitals were not cooperating to give their data, because suddenly an organization comes up and tells them to give their data. They were reluctant to give their data. So many things they had, so many problems. They also faced a lot of problems. So they are in the process of putting the system in place. Let us see what happens.
Okay, great. So can we understand that this organization only takes care of once you're dead, or does NOTA also get involved in live donation as well?
They do not get involved in live donations, because NATO as such is an organization that doesn't do any transplant, that doesn't do any donation, nothing of that kind is done. Only SOPs are formed, data is maintained, that kind of activities are going, awareness is created. Then they are supporting the SOTOs, they are supporting ROTOs, regional organ and tissue transplant organization. They are supporting SOTOs, they are bringing them together, holding conferences, holding workshops, doing that kind of activities. They are not actively involved in transplantation, living donation. They are forming SOPs. They have a follow-up registry. They have started follow-up registry. Let us see what comes out of that.
Okay. If I may ask, is NOTA having any plans to move into paired donation, which is swapping?
See, 2011, swap transplants were allowed. Right now, because they were facing a lot of problems, they were not, the hospitals were not giving data. It was not getting, across to them the data. Even the number of transplant patients in the waiting list is much less. The adequate data was not given, because I was doing research myself. There was a lot of issues with the data which these hospitals were providing. So it will take time for them to start this swap registry. But we have Astra in Mumbai. They are doing, even some of the hospitals within Delhi, they have started swap transplants.
Okay. If I can understand, when two families want to swap, does this happen through the hospital, or what is the procedure? Can we directly tie up with the organization, with you guys? How does that procedure work?
It is through the hospital. Through the hospital, they have to swap.
Okay, it only happens.
Only swap, and then it has to go through authorization committees. They will authorize it, whether this swap is legible and whether it is applicable. Is it that in both the cases it is near relative? Other than near relative, does not, there are special categories for living donation, near relative category, and then there is other than near relative. So there, in both the cases, it should be only near relative, then only swap can happen. Okay. So already these donors are on the waiting list of NATO registry. The swap, for swapping these donors, they have to take consent from the authorization committees. Okay. We have special arrangements for these kind of things. See, usually all these surgeries, whatever surgeries are there, we don't have to take special permission for surgeries. But in kidney transplants or any other transplants, living donor transplants, we have to take permission from authorization committees, competent authorities, because there are a lot of problems with these kind of commercial activities going on. They want to eliminate that commercial angle from this. That is why they have to take first permission from these authorization committee, then only they can go for transplants.
You use a term called nearly related.
Yes.
Can you break down that term?
Yes, near relative means, in India, near relatives means your parents, your siblings, your children. Now they have included grandchildren and grandparents also in 2011. Till 2011, grandparents and grandchildren were not counted into near relatives. Spouse is also near relative. So these are near relatives. They do not have to go to authorization committees. Authorization committee, it is different committee than the hospital committee. They have to go to competent authority. The permissions are easy there, rather than going to authorization committees. So other than near relatives, even friends can give. Your niece, your aunts, they can give. They come into other than near relatives. there we think probably commercial angle will be there. Every case is seen as with suspicion, because there are a lot of organ trade rackets. Even after transplantation, they say that there was some, commercial activities going on behind. They have taken money, they paid less, they paid more, they did this, they did this. So they are suspicious with all these, near relatives. Other than near relatives, that's why they go to authorization committees. Authorization committees, they record their proceedings. They interview donor family, recipient family, see what the relation is there. It's a newly formed relationship or it's an old relation. They will go to the photographs. They will see their incomes of the two families. Is it there something income is less? That's why they are exploited. Exploitation, coercion of any, avoid that. To eliminate all those things, they go for their stricter norms. And they see to that there is no commercial angle involved in these other than near relatives. That's why authorization committee is there. They look at this, and all these proceedings are video recorded.
Yeah.
And we have seen that Dr. Anil Kumar, is National Organ Transplant Program in charge. He showed me some of the videos. A small boy very interested to give to 70-year-old mother, 60-year-old grandmother. In our culture, probably a 20-year-old boy will not be accepted to be a donor. He was involved. That was a commercial angle given to him. He was so inclined to donate to his grandmother, but she was not his grandmother. So similarly, she was not his grandmother.
Okay.
He posed to be he posed to be her grandson, but he was not. It was proved by that. After that, they went to appellate authority, and they came to know that it is not a true donor. There is some commercial angle involved. He showed me some of the photographs. Similarly, that Photoshop photographs. Wife is this, she wants to donate. See, this is the photograph of my Photoshop photograph. So you have to be extra cautious. When people become over smart, the system becomes over cautious. So that is to prevent that commercial angle. They go through these authorization committee. Then if they approve, then only this transplant will happen.
Okay. But swapping is one of the best ways. Would you agree that we can increase the organ?
Yes. If you have a near relative and he is not a proper match, if you swap, there are domino transplants. Swap is between two families.
Yeah.
Domino is between more than two families. Sometimes there are swaps between 60 families. Yes, it has happened abroad. 60 families, and then there was an altruistic donor who went into. He donated to first pair. The first pair donated to second pair. In that way, 30 donors and recipients swap. That's called domino transfer.
Since our legal system allows us to also do swapping, I think, but there's so much of coordination and the system is still not completely in place that we cannot take swapping to the next level, right?
We have here also 5 swap transplants, common, 5 to 6 at a time. It happened in Hinduja, I think Bombay. 5 to 6 swap transplants simultaneously, 10 operations, 12 operations simultaneously in different hospitals at a time. Because so, if you suppose my recipient gets he gets a kidney, probably tomorrow I will say that I don't want to donate to the second. So at the same time, all these transplant surgeries have to be taken place. So for 5 transplant surgeries, 10 surgeries are performed. Donor surgery and transplant surgery. So 10, 12 different 5-6 hospitals were involved.
So since you just mentioned that point, maybe you've already answered it. So swapping can happen not just within the hospital, but can happen within inter-hospitals as well.
Yes. We have so many hospitals, they can join together and do this swap.
Okay,
and
great.
They have been doing it.
Okay.
Next now, I have seen six recipients got in one day. In one day, 6 recipients got 6 kidneys through 6 different donors. Like my donor was different. The one pair giving second giving, like donor were exchanged between 6 pairs.
Okay.
In India, but abroad 30 pairs over a period of 8 months.
Okay. That's actually some good news to hear, actually, that yes, at least I was not aware of it when I was doing my reading up, but thank you for that information. Since you brought up altruistic donors, Rita, I want you to, I understand the legal system is really strict. The laws are keenly looking at because of the money racket that is between organ donations that's happened within the organ donation exchange and all that stuff. But I wanted, my husband had an altruistic donor. It was his childhood friend, and of course, we had to show 35 years of photographs of going for each other's weddings, naming ceremonies. The protocol was quite strict, but of course, we won because they came to know that it was authentic, and we went through. But many people are not even aware of this term altruistic donors. Would you think?
See. What you are talking, it is not altruistic.
Okay.
He is he comes under the other than near relatives category.
If it's
Because he doesn't come into altruistic donor. Altruistic donor means he should be completely a stranger to the person to whom he is donating.
or not, so friends also is not an altruistic donor.
Friend is not an altruistic, he is other than near relative. He is other than near relative because he has association, he has affection with the recipient. So he is other than near relative. He is not altruistic donor. That is why he was accepted. Altruistic donor means he is not known to you. Suddenly, suppose altruistic donor is like this. In blood donation, we see these altruistic donors. Like if suppose I need blood group O, I will just post on Facebook, I need blood group O, donor with blood group O. I need immediate transplant. The person will come running and the person will donate. So it is allowed. But in India, altruistic donation of this kind is not allowed. Suddenly you say that you want to donate.
Oh, okay.
Eventually we come to know there was some commercial end. So that is why the system is overcautious. This altruistic donor is not allowed. Then there is another way. Like here the person will come to know about this donor because he is advertised, he is coming now, he is altruistic donor, he was a stranger totally. He is not known to this person. There is no law, there is nothing of that kind. Suddenly he will say that for humanity, it will not be accepted in India in most of the cases. But there is one more thing, like in blood donation, we arrange certain camps, blood donation camps. So many people come to know. They do it for humanity. They don't know the person. They don't know whom it will go, but they do it for humanity. So that is indirected blood donation, indirected altruistic blood donation. We are not directing it to someone. In living donation, again, it is directed living donation and indirect living donation. Indirected living donation, altruistic living donation means you are not directly giving to the person. Indirectly, you are giving to the waiting list person. Okay. A person on the waiting list, you can go to the waiting list, or you can start a domino chain of 30 to 40. Why domino? Why altruistic donor there? He is very important there. Because if I have to perform 30 surgeries, that means 60 surgeries at a time cannot, it's not very easier way of doing 60 surgeries at a time. So one altruistic donor will enter the chain, he will give to the first donor recipient pair. Then second, after some time, first will go give to second will give to third. So it will take time because we are sure that first donor has got, now he will give to second. So we are sure that he has got it. Altruistic donor has given to the person. He was not known. We have made him to wait for this altruistic this domino chain. Once this domino chain is ready, he will enter and he will the end will see that wherever the donor stops donating kidney, will stop the chain there. So that altruistic donor is an indirected way. He is not directly given to a person. So this kind of altruistic donors are allowed outside in USA, I think, and UK also probably they are doing it. In India, Kerala is thinking of doing this kind of altruistic, allowing indirect way of altruistic donation so that he gives directly to the unknown donor, not to the known donor, to whom he knows.
Okay, thank you. So I heard doctor mentioning the point where in 2016, interstate transplants were not allowed, where somebody in Mumbai can come and receive an organ transplant in Tamil Nadu. Why was that change happening? Why did that change happen rather?
No, it is not that interstate will not happen. Interstate, I have seen even in my certain cases, you have to, in one hospital only you can register for cadaver organ donation. Maybe you register in some other hospital in different state, but for cadaver organ donation, I would request you people to think, in a way so that in a best possible way. You have to see in which hospital you want to do. Once a cadaver becomes available, you don't have time. You don't have time to move to another state. You are called within 1 hour. Within 1 hour, you have to reach the hospital. Will you reach the interstate? Oh, you can't reach the other states. I have seen people who are registered in Safdarjung Hospital. They are from Bihar. They are from UP. They were told to reach hospital within 1 hour. They could not reach. Meaning, if suppose you are registering in different places at 3 places, will you be able to reach them? Will you be able to incur the expenses which they are asking you? So you have to think about so many things. So it is better the hospital which is near to you, you should be doing it. Previously, there were even I have seen people had registered themselves in 3-4 hospitals because they wanted to get deceased donor as early possible. And there was no check. NATO was not there. But now NATO wants, if suppose a person does a registration at 4 places, that means we have for 400 people, we will have 1,600 people registered as organ donors. So that will create problems with the data.
Okay.
Okay, you can change the way sir has told. We can change from one hospital, shift from one hospital to another. Previously, it was happening, and they were getting.
I have another question to ask you. You're free to give me the answer or not. We have a cadaver a kidney available, and obviously it is a call is going out to the hospitals that are on the waiting list. Probably the first 3 or first 5 is what I understand. What happens in X amount of time? The kidney is not used. The cadaver kidney is not used.
It usually does not happen. It usually does not happen. Because you always see that the time gap, you give a lot of time to the people. Even when first diagnosis of brain death certification is done twice. When first certification is done, patient's relatives are taken, the consent is taken from the relatives. You have 6 more hours to see that who are the people who will be getting. You motivate people to come to the hospital, come for transplantation, and you mobilize all these people for doing transplantation. You have enough time because first and second, there is first diagnosis, then there is second diagnosis. Second diagnosis is done not less than 6 hours. You have these 6 hours, and afterwards also, yeah. So it usually happens within that time, and kidney has ample time to be donated. 48 hours, 72 hours and kidneys usually don't leave their own states because each and every state has its own hospitals, group of hospitals, and they share these kidneys. Even if you have 3 hospitals in a particular state, so they can share 2 kidneys at a time. You don't have so many cadavers in one day, in one particular organization, in one particular hospital.
I'm going to further ask another point on the same question. If in case, I'm assuming there's a system also in place that the hospitals who have been reached out to accept that cadaver kidney have to use it, and if they do not use it, they have to be accountable for it?
They will not do it. They need it for the patient. Why shouldn't they use it? Only if the kidney is not in usable shape, then they will not use it. Sometimes I have also come across certain situations like doctors shifting to organ retrieval hospitals, going to organ retrieval hospitals to retrieve liver, and after reaching there, they find that it is not usable. They don't retrieve the liver. They did not retrieve the liver. They said that it has cancerous nodes, so we will not be able to retrieve it. So they did not take it. So how will we tell them that you are accountable because you have lost this kidney? It doesn't happen because it's precious. Everybody is so, they are so hard pressed to use this. So they will not do it. It is not done like that. But sometimes because like heart, like 14 heart, they were not transplanted by NATO in I think 2016 or 2017 because we did not get donors. It has to be lifted from one place to another. It takes a lot of money also. Even if it comes through aeroplane, it takes 10 lakhs for a sortie. So how will it needs a lot of money? Is the donor family, is the recipient willing to pay that much? That is also a problem.
So if it's coming from another place, it means the donor's family would have to pay for that, right?
Yes. And it is not told to the family early. That is very bad.
It's not told.
They are charged. One of my recipients, she said that I was charged 10 lakh rupees and I did not have that amount. Then they did not give him the bills.
Okay.
So that is also happening.
If I may ask, let me come back to the kidney part of it itself. So on our billing, if you go for a cadaver transplant, we will be charged an amount for the cadaver for the cadaver organ that is retrieved.
No, 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 you cannot. You cannot. It is banned. You cannot charge for any cadaver kidney. If somebody is doing it, then they can be punished, they can be jailed, they can be fined. So you cannot charge for the kidney. Even the donor family cannot take anything. They do not have, they can't ask for money for these organs. They do not, these hospitals don't pay them anything. This is also a myth going in the public that they have sold their organs. It is not possible. The donor family is not given even a single penny. They face social ostracism once they go back to their families. So people think that they have sold their organs, like others are doing. They have also sold the organs of their donor. So nothing, nobody can charge, nobody can take, neither the donor nor the recipient.
Okay. Okay. I'm going to ask you to give us some insights of what's happening in terms of progressing the idea of organ donation. Is there any plans coming up with Noto that is in mind that you're trying to increase the number of organ donors through a campaign?
See, they are doing every year. National Organ Donation Day is observed on 13th August is one. It is observed by Times of India along with other NGOs. We have usually on 27th November, we have Indian Organ Donation Day. That day we create awareness. So many things are happening. Even national and international events, college, schools, they do a lot of awareness programs in this, but a lot has to be done. It's not that much. See, one thing more which I feel really bad about this. People only talk about organ donation. We have to talk about brain death and acceptance of brain death and what it gives to the people. Not simply saying after death. We're trapping people into donation. We're giving incomplete information. We have to give complete information and let people decide. And I'm sure people don't. There were some people who had donated. They were willing to donate with brain death. They came forward that this may be brain dead. Please see that whether it's brain dead or she is brain dead. We would like to donate organs. So, thinking that society is not willing is also very bad, and we have to give correct information to the people, not trap them into donation of organs.
Rita, I'm going to ask you a question. I'm not sure whether you would be the right person to answer this, or maybe doctor could have been the right person, but Anjali did touch upon it. I've had situations where I've seen my counter patients. Some of them have received a cadaver transplant, an organ in the same blood group within 6 months. Some of them have taken 5 to 6 years. What could be the reason for this?
It depends upon the hospital where you have registered yourself. I have seen in, even this Safdarjung hospital, people get these organs very early, cadaver, because other hospitals are sharing organs with them. There is small waiting list. If suppose a hospital has very good reputation, but organ donors are not there, there will be hundreds of patients in the line in their waiting list. So a person there may get very late, but in another hospital there are waiting list. It is not that reputed hospital, but it gets its share, so it will be the donor will get early, other donor will get late.
What if both the patients from the same blood group belong to the same hospital?
No, usually that means there is no mismatch. Once a donor organ becomes available, his blood group has to be matched with the blood group should be matching with the donor, with the recipient. Then also there should be cross match. Cross matching is also done, and if suppose cross matching is not, they don't want to take they do not want that there should be some rejection afterwards. It is not only donation; it is also about rejection.
Okay. I'm going to end with the last question, Rita, because I think the organization has been doing a phenomenal job, making so much of difference in the life of so many people. My question to you is, what should we do as general public to make organ donation more valuable, more accessible, more available, whatever is the right word to use? What we should do? What is your message that you're giving me, what you're giving the general public?
You pledge to donate organs. Talk about this organ donation to your friends, to wherever you go. tell them also brain death and organ donation, tissue donation and death. Not that it is not, everything is not allowed. Tell them that brain death is also one form of death. It is not that heart stops beating that time. So you have to talk about this and decide with your family that you want to donate, and ask your children also. It's also very important. Take to the schools, teach about this topic to the schools, in schools also. This should be there. You can do a lot of things yourself.
Thank you, Rita. It was a privilege talking to you, and on behalf of the Kidney Warrior, we will always, it's always a privilege to have you in the community. Such a knowledgeable person, so accessible to share your knowledge, your love, your compassion with our fellow community members. Thank you very much. And before I sign off, I'd like to say that we clearly heard that if you want to be an organ donor, please go ahead. The intention is all that matters. Don't wait for the action. Just think of the intention, because the more we think of the action, we're just looking too much in the future. If we all become organ donors, and I think we'll have enough of brain dead people available, organs available, and less of people on the waiting list available. And don't forget, to be an organ donor, you also have to be brain dead. But if to be a tissue donor, you do not have to be brain dead. And most of us have no idea on tissue donations. But today, we had Rita clearly setting an idea on the same for us. So please go around, talk about the subject, and make organ donation more accessible, more informative. I think people need to ask more questions, and you can feel free. If you have a loved one that belongs to the CKD journey, I'm going to request you to please join us in our community, the Kidney Warrior Foundation. It's a community where we share love, care, support, knowledge, information, and everything that you need to make your journey as comfortable and knowledgeable as possible. But until then, this is me signing off from our next episode with Rita, and we finished a wonderful topic on organ donation and the success rate of cadaver transplants as well. Thank you very much, Rita, once again, and a special thanks to all of you watching us so patiently. God bless you all, and always keep smiling. Thank you.